Okay, so today we're going to do distance learning, learning from video games. And what's really powerful about this is how it can help you to learn at a distance. Because all video games, there's nobody there telling you how to do it. It's always done at a distance. You put in your disc, you download your game, you play on your iPad, whatever it is, it's just you and the machine. So it's a great opportunity for us teachers to learn from video games. Probably one of the most addictive forms of entertainment, but also one that can teach us so much about strategy and how to play. So right now we're going to look at these models and how they work in the real world. So let's look at today's contents. I'm going to start with an overview and talk about what is gamification. There are quite a few concepts around here, and I'm going to be quite strict about my concept of gamification because you guys are teachers. You don't necessarily have games ready-made that you can use in your class. So we're going to go through this idea of gamification, which is going to add the most value to you. Elements. These are elements you can use in your lessons. You can take bits and pieces rather than plan a whole thing. And I think that's really important because there's a lot of great things out there and many elements to help you. And then finally, I'm going to create a template plan for your own gamification so you can actually do this at a more strategic level. Again, the resources will be provided to help you that. So what's the bottom line here? Well, you've got to learn from the mistakes of others. You can't possibly live long enough to make them on yourself. I've been doing this. My master's was based on gamification back in 2012. I've published quite a few bits and pieces, and I've done a lot, and I've made quite a big gamification system that really helps with coding. So I want to share this and share both the good and the bad, what's worked well, what hasn't worked well, what you need to be careful of, because gamification, unlike a lot of things, it can make things worse as well as better. So you need to watch out for the warnings. You get it right, you're going to have an amazing time. You get it wrong, you can actually make things worse. And I think that's really important going forward. But if you get it right, you can get your kids to write 5,000 pieces of code, which is impressive. So let's have a look at gamification. What is it? Well, what it's not is getting children to play video games. That's not what this is about. It's actually about the teachers playing games and the teachers learning from that experience. So the teachers learn from games and pull elements from gaming into their lessons. So next time somebody says to you when you're playing a video game, oh, but actually I'm becoming a better teacher by learning from this experience. And that is absolutely 100% true. So what is it? Gamification is the use of game elements in any context that is non-game related, usually by providing rewards and by fostering user interaction with the learning material. That's from Abela. Now, he's not a particularly famous person, but his definition is just absolutely spot on for what we need without getting into the intricacies of it. So why do it? Well, you know, the classic 89% of those stated that a point system would boost their engagement. 82% are in favour of multiple difficulty levels and explorable content. And 62% stated that they would be motivated to learn if leaderboards were involved and they had the opportunity to compete with other colleagues. So it is something students definitely want and something they can learn from. And it's incredibly important with distance learning that we get motivational tools that really help students to get on board. One of the key concepts, and again, it's just really so important with us in distance learning, is this kind of game mechanic zen. It's about getting their difficulty not so difficult that it's super frustrating, but not just boring, the same thing again and again. And in distance learning, we've seen task setting has become so important because you're not able to explain it. Always think about that difficulty curve. Do the tasks yourself. Try them out with a couple of kids before you give them to a whole class. Check what's going on and see what's going on, you know? And try and remember what's worked really well in your class or what has caused confusion in your classes, because that game mechanic zen is absolutely so important. I know experienced teachers will probably instinctively be able to do this, but you've got to try and think about this. And as I say, don't be afraid to pilot with one or two kids ahead of the class and get them to give you feedback before you roll out to large numbers of kids. Because if it's frustrating, you're going to have all those problems. And it's boring. It'll be exactly that. It'll be boring. Kids won't be that interested. Now, the next thing is Gamification is useful for certain things, it's not useful for. So let's have a look at what's good and bad. Encouraging people to do chores. Gamification is perfect for this. Things kids don't necessarily want to do, but it's good for them. Yes, definitely. And I mean that literally. If you want the kids to do the household chores, gamification system can really help. You want kids to do exercise, gamification can help. Changing attitudes to failure. Coding is all about failing. It's all about that 1,000 times you got it wrong. Get them to be okay with failing. It's just the first time I learned something. And making assessment fun. If it's a game, people are okay to not get all the points. Don't use it for creative tasks, okay? If it's creative and there's a joy in creating something, this is not where gamification is at. Tasks students already intrinsically motivated to do. If they already want to do a task, they're on board, they're going for it, you don't need to gamify it. Here's the one to be careful with. Competition elements. Do not make losers. Your top 5% are motivated, what about the other 95%? Employee of the month, did you enjoy that? Of course you did if you were employee of the month, right? All those other employees, not so much, which is why you have to be very careful when you design competitive elements. And we can go through that in more detail later. So let's have a look at some of the elements. So among the preferred ones are progressing, different levels, knowing where you are at and what you're going to do. That gap analysis, we see that in all sorts of formative assessment, that is just so important, that progressing for levels. And one of the things that's really important to me is if you give somebody 50%, you want them to be constantly building. I much prefer this idea of building towards success rather than judgment. And that's where formative assessment really can help you. Points or scores, people like to know how well they're doing, and I think that's important, but make it so, that's the thing, you get better points. Points move on. It's not a judgment, and there's nothing you can do about it. You keep on moving on. Real-time feedback on performance. My students love this. This is more technically demanding. This does require you to put the work up ahead of time. Progress bars. You'd like to know how far you are and how far you got through. Activity feeds. See how things are going. That's really nice. Things people don't like so much are competition with friends, although amongst the top students, they love it. Virtual gifts. Some of them look a bit fake. Being part of a story or narrative can be good, but sometimes it just doesn't hit it. And avatars, they're so last year. And virtual currencies, if you can't buy anything with them, it's not worth doing it. So, these are the concepts I will recommend making education more game-like. Points, badges, levels, leaderboards, challenges, real-time feedback. Some of these we've got ready-made systems for, some you might need to do yourself. But let's have a look at ways we can do this quite easy. When you give points, don't give 3 points. Give 3,000 points. Come up with a cool points plan that factors in difficulty and how much you want students to do the task, yeah? If it's easy but you really want students to give the task, give them loads of points. If it's difficult but you're not so bothered about them doing it, you can give less points, okay? But be generous. All the cognitive science suggests that if you receive 3,000 points, 30, 50, 100, 200, you're much more excited about it than 1, 2, 3. It's just not that exciting. Yes, at a certain point, there's diminishing return. That's why I would suggest do anything from 10 to 1,000, but don't go beyond that. Now, there's another thing that I've learned about more recently, the law of surprise. And the key aspect of fun is unpredictability. If rewards are predictable, then interest will lessen. So sometimes it's great to have that. And that's why there's so much controversy in computing about loot boxes. Because they're addictive, they're fun, but they're so addictive they're almost gambling. But needs to be within a safe and consistent environment. So it's okay if there's some amount of it, but don't make it so addictive that people are not feeling safe about it. You know, recently in our school, we've heard about these Clash Dojo addicts. Basically, they want it so much that we've actually had to step back from Clash Dojo because people are doing anything to get Clash Dojo points. So you've got to balance things and get things right. Points collection. You know, form sheets, numbers, they're all fantastic at this. And this is just a nice example in Google Sheets, but you could do this in any spreadsheet. And it's just a nice way of encouraging people to have a go. And a bit of student choice often helps people to have a go at these things. Getting points. And this is the lovely design. Levels. Call it what you like, but give it some exciting, spicy, intermediate, kids, mission, casual, hacker, expert, professional. These are all names we've called it. Premiership, you know, and these make things a lot more for rock hard. Yeah, go for it and have a look at all of these and see what you want to do. Use Keynote, Pages, Google Sites, Weebly, whatever it is you fancy. Seesaw is another one that people love. But make pages for levels. Go up those levels and make things really exciting. Chapter 1, 3, 4, Caesar, ciphers. And this is all about getting people to go up levels rather than thinking, I'm only at 10%. I'm at 10%, but I'm building towards 20%. Change that attitude and you've just got this amazing thing going on. Challenges. Use geometry in the turtle module to draw a rectangle. You're probably all asleep. And you're just pretending to pay attention. That's why some of you have turned your screen off because you're just not paying attention. This is where scenarios and make things more exciting. Okay, drunk pirate. Use the turtle knowledge to draw the path of a drunk pirate. A drunk pirate makes a random turn, and so on. That's more interesting. It's more fun. Give it a context. Give it fun. Give it enjoyable. Make it real world. Make it interesting. But you know, it doesn't have to be super real world. It can be just a fun thing. And always, the golden rule is, if you could make something fun, you're on to a winner. If you can't make it fun, make it useful. And if you can't make it useful, why are you seriously teaching this? Use drawings to make badges and sheets to display. You know, there are many ways to do this. You can use Keynote, you can use 1,000 ways, but give out some badges, but just make the badges fun to receive. Send an email with it. Do something. Don't make it a pain in the neck to receive. That was one of the first bits of feedback I got from my system, was that it was too difficult to get the badges. So make it super simple to get badges. And, you know, in my case, you can just look at a sheet and you can see you've received these cool badges. There are some things to help you with this that make it really easy. Use forms, give instant feedback, you know, make sure that kids are having fun. And again, there's plenty of ready-made systems for this, which I'll show you some in a minute. So here are some of the ready-made tools. Kahoot, Quizzes, Edpuzzle, Quizlet, Socrative, Flippity.net. This one's a little less known, but it's got an amazing amount of tools that really help you to gamify. And it's just made by somebody who's having a bit of fun. Classcraft, Class Dojo, these are more for things to think about. Code Combat and Brainscape, all lovely tools, and I'm sure you can think of 1,000 more iPad apps that are out there for your subject. Go in there, have some fun with them. Now, hopefully some of you have heard of these, but let's have some fun ourselves. Let's see how long it takes you to work out which goes where. You're on the clock. Okay, now, if you're watching the YouTube video, please pause at this point, because guess what? I'm about to give you the answer. You know, be honest, pause now. Okay, last chance. Now, you can argue a few of these, but I think that's important. One of the things that I really like is the journey. And the journey is this idea of creating a story. And stories are things that can get students hooked, particularly younger students who love stories. And it really helps to make things better. So the journey, any of your ADEs, you know about the journey. It's one of those great ideas. If you're not sure, Google it up. It's these 13 steps that make a brilliant story. Okay, so that's that. Okay, now the next bit I'm not going to spend too long on because it is going to take you time and I think it's worth having a read. But let's have a look at some of the key concepts that will help you to plan when you're learning at a distance to make your lessons that much more exciting. One of the classics is from an obscure economic source, but nudge theory is brilliant for this. Now, I made a couple of alterations just for the sake of it, but clearly define your changes. Consider changes from a student's point of view. Use evidence to show the best evidence and present the change as a choice. To win points and badges is what I would do in gamification. Listen to feedback. It's important. I've learned a lot from my students and them telling me how to improve things as they go along. And trust me, they've not been shy in telling me what works, what doesn't. Limit obstacles. Just do one challenge at a time and really plan things. And keep momentum up with short-term wins. And we're going to go into that in a little bit more detail. But this super simple theory of nudge theory really shows how you can encourage students, especially when they're learning at a distance and you haven't got the usual tools. Right, let's have a look at this. Now, this is just a simple example, drag the characters. Now, I end up with some serious arguments when I do this in class, and you know what? If you're in the live session, you're going to love this because you're going to be able to have those fights. Okay, so this one's the example, and you just drag them and see what's what. Okay, so that's the link to do it. Have a go and see how we go. You will need Google Slides for this because it'll just make a copy for you. Okay, you make your decisions and then you see if you disagree. Now, if you disagree with me, guess what? You can use the comments in YouTube. Feel free to comment. I'm strong enough to take it. But here's what I think. I think Harry Potter was all about relatedness. It was all about that finding a place for him to belong. I also think Spider-Man's a lot like that. He wanted to belong in school. He was always struggling between work and that kind of thing. So those two I really think. I really think Iron Man was all about mastery. He just wanted to be the best of the best of the best. Autonomy. Catwoman, she's a free spirit. She wants to do things her own way, even if that's not the standards that society does. And she quite often, in the comics at least, gives Batman a really hard time when you think she probably shouldn't be. Purpose. Yeah, Batman and Superman both have a real purpose. They're altruism. They're trying to do things for the greater good. Game process. So this is a way to do it. It's a great model. First, you gather information by asking, what are you gamifying? Who are your users? We're assuming you're students. Why are you doing it? And how are you going to measure success? Act. Act on the information you have. Design the best solution for your goals and the engagement and experience of your users. Then test it with them. Measure. Look, everything about gamification, everything in computing is about measurements. The amount of measurements we have online these days are incredible. And then finally enrich. Go back. Keep on improving it. I'm doing it to this day. I keep on enriching, improving it, improving my systems. Another one is the 4 E's. Task design. Enroll. Get people on board. Enthuse, engage, and endear. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more detail now because I think they are important concepts. Enroll. Okay, I'm not going to show this for too long, but, you know, getting people on board. The best introduction to a game ever, made in 1985, was Super Mario Brothers. If you've got a Nintendo Switch or whatever, or you've got an easy way to get at Super Mario Brothers, have a go. The version there is just a basic scratch. It's not quite the same, but it's amazing that they've basically managed to make this game. It's about people getting on board. That is the introduction that has made Super Mario Brothers one of the most popular franchises ever, because they explain it so well and so playfully. If you can explain how to get on board very playfully, and it's super important when you're doing things distance learning, because you've got to have a system that helps. Because you've not got the classroom, you've got to explain this stuff super simply and in a playful, fun way. Enthuse. In the first few hours, be super generous with your praise, points, praise, get everybody on, make sure everyone knows the rules, give plenty of reminders. Just be generous. Again, it's super important distance learning because this is the way it's got to be done. Okay, so again, first 10 minutes, if you're playing Super Mario World, you get to play with this really cool character and ride around. It's brilliant. Give those super generous rewards to get people started. You know what? Pretty early in the game, you get the super double lightsaber in that Return the Jedi game. That is awesome to play with. It's fun. Okay, now for adults only, God of War also does this. They give you weapons, they give you cool stuff to do, they give you things to play with, and I think that is awesome that you do these things. And again, I got it within the first hour of that game, and yeah, it made a huge difference, and it was just awesome to play with. Early bonuses are super important. Engage. Make sure students know how they're doing it. E.g. in fitness programs, you've got to keep reinforcing, you've got to get people excited. Mums and Bubs fitness program, you know, get that bonding, get people engaged, get people on board. India, what have you got for the experts? What happy memories do they have at the start of their systems? Minecraft. You know what? I know one of these YouTubers, got millions of hits, and he's gone through all sorts of first-person shooters. He's now back on Minecraft. And he's getting really good numbers because it's India. It's bringing back happy memories. My kids loved Pokemon because it brought back happy memories of what's going on. Do that. Bring back, once you've got the system to a certain point, get people to India. And you know what? Those kids will be endorsing and saying, wow, yeah, you guys should get on this system. They'll be your biggest advocates if you get it right. And that's how things spread. And it's part of the reason why Minecraft has done so well. Why Pokemon, why Mario. Those particular brands keep on going back because people have happy memories of them. And that's what India does at the end. Final Fantasy VII. One of the top selling games of this year is a remake of a game that's 20 odd years old. And everybody's played it and loved it. So here's an example, and again, I can show you this. Python challenges. Enroll, we get everybody set up. We enthuse, we give out the first few badges quickly, engage. Students get that. It's to help with programming and computational thinking. Also enables students to enter the Super League. So I've got this system where not only do you get a basic league, we have a number of leagues to make sure in the beginning it's all about you, but then it becomes competitive as you go up the ranks. And there's two leagues. There's a main league and there's thing. One system that's really, really good at doing this is Subway Surfers. They're always about, in the beginning it's about you achieving yourself, but then they start to tell you about competition and competition with friends, and then they put you in ranks, and then they put you in a bronze, silver, and engaged league. That's the way to do it. Because once you get towards the top, yes, you can. Competition becomes a strong motivator. India, students can add their own challenges and have fun with the system. They can become games masters. And all of this is within the Python challenges system I've said. Admittedly, it's an absolutely outgrown hobby. If you're interested, we can talk about it later. But I just want to show that even for a teacher, it's possible to make these kind of systems and get people on board. And as I say, we're just about at 5,000 challenges now, which is incredible. And I'm going to give you two simple case studies just to show how you can do it very simply. Okay. The first one is the Signoff League. You give out flight checklists. These are the absolute basics before you even think about handing something in to me. I do not want those economics essays in unless they meet these basics. Now, it's one thing, me saying this until I'm blue in the teeth, giving out pages and handout sheets. Kids still don't do it. So what I made them do is another student needs to sign off, and they are then responsible for justifying it. And I give the points for correct hand-ins to the person who checked it, right? So I give points for correct hand-ins. There is a penalty. You can also give points. You can take points off if they don't hand it in correctly. So if your peer checks and says, no, you can take the points off. But generally, it's enough to give points to the person who's checked it, and it encourages them to do the work and make sure it's okay. Your offering is acceptable. Another one was, I work in a subject where I didn't even have a glossary to begin with, so I created this glossary creation competition. Got the year 12s and 13s to create an entire glossary for me. Every word entered was worth 10 points, and points turned into merits, which is the school system. They also received credit for each term they found. So anything they found, it is there. And then there's a competition with a live bar chart. That, to be honest, was the most effective. The live bar chart showing who entered the most really got the students in. So it shows competition can sometimes be really effective. And the students really loved it and absolutely went for it. And now I have this amazing glossary that I'm able to use and new students are able to really benefit from. Now, I've gone through a lot of this, and I think it's one of those things, if you want to do planning, you want a system. So there is a link there for you to get the whole system and for you to work your way through if you want to do a planner. If you just want to take a few of these hints and tips, then please enjoy, go through. And if you're not on YouTube right now, it will be on YouTube for you. Just want to say a big shout out to all the people who've helped me make this. My wife, my children, Katrina Carragher for checking psychology. She's the psychology teacher and she's a great psychologist. M. Jones, Emma Cohen, and Lena for field testing the presentation. It's been great for them to see it and to check it. And then Slides Carnival, because they made this template. I have to admit, I messed with it royally. But Slides Carnival is a great website for these. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.